Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite. Buongiorno, buonasera. Dzień dobry, dobry wieczór i jak jela. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be. Jay Slater Case, video 2 of today, Monday, May 18th. And cap on backwards, white wall background means it is a focus on the one of the AG members that needs a good airing, in the sense that we need to put out there some of the absurd things that this person has said. Now, that said, I am actually not going to really do that today. I had planned to focus on one person called Popechris the First, but in fact, I'm going to, surprise, surprise, revert to analysing some of what Ivor Lovelace, L. Slugtardo, or Ivor Lugless, whichever, Lord Lugworm, Lord Lugster, whatever. I would like to go back to focus on some of the things he's been saying, but he's been posting ad nauseum today, one after the other, non-stop. A little bit odd for someone who a short while ago said that it was best just to ignore all this, and that he was one of those that liked to enjoy life on his boat, on his boats, etc. We'll get to the whole boating scenario in just a second. So apologies. This is not a deep dive into one of the AG crew, although, as I say, I will mention something about one Popechris the First in just a second. But yeah, we do need to focus on some of what Luggy's put out there, and I do need to highlight some words that Kaz Alice said, who has been back and forth with me today, emailing. The one email address I have from the accident group is Karen Morin, Kaz Alice. So that is the one person I can email to and fro, and I've done a lot of that today. And we have established exactly, I think, where Luggy has been either lying or assuming way too much. I mean, no surprise there, but it's good to actually nail down in certain situations what has gone wrong with wording and where people have said things that are wrong. As I say, we'll get to that. Let's just switch now. Pope Chris the First. Pope Chris the First. What I want to say is about one comment he said, because he's basically admitted that what is going on in the Jay Slater case is a cover up, I believe, because what he said was that he was amazed, he was surprised that these Accrington teenagers, these youngsters, could be so sophisticated in a way. I'm not, this is, not quoting Pope Chris the First word for word, um, but yeah, more or less, he said, how is it these people are so sophisticated they can pull off such a cover up? And my point was, there's nothing sophisticated about a cover up. Pope Chris the First is saying, how can it be that a cafe owner like Ophelia, that the whole Guardia Civil, that Debbie Duncan, all of these people can be in a cover up? How can that possibly work? And I think the problem here is Pope Chris the First doesn't understand how cover ups work. He just got no idea. Just because so many different people from so many different walks of life are involved in hiding the truth doesn't mean it's complex. And it doesn't mean at all that it's dubious or unlikely. It just means that a number of people, in their best interests, are refusing to reveal the truth. That's all there is to it. And as my example in this conversation, I said to Pope Chris the First, for example, in the UK, the grooming scandal. Just take that. You have so many people from so many walks of life that covered up the truth because nothing to do with a very complex system of communicating with each other to make sure a cover up happened. It's just because each individual person and each individual group obviously realized it was in their best interest to shut up. Whether you have the social workers, whether you have the police, whether you have the family members of the grooming gang attackers, if you like, the grooming gang individuals that committed those horrendous crimes, so many people around that found it expedient to be silent. That's all the cover up is. There's no great conspiracy, there's no great plot. It's just several people know what is in their best interest. The same thing with the J. Slater case, Popechris the First. There's no great plan here for people to coordinate a cover up. The cover up happens because each of those individuals knows it's in their interest to be quiet. Now, what's interesting to me is Pope Chris I then basically admitted that that was the case and that the J. Slater case is a cover up. But here's the kicker, Pope Chris I thinks it's only a cover up because people like me want it to be a cover up, if that makes any sense. It doesn't, but let us see if we can go to his words, because Pope Chris I says, but that's a real cover up, referring to the grooming gang scandal, but that's a real cover up, not one that existed purely to drive content out of something for 2 years straight. Listen to this answer again. Not one that existed purely to drive content out of something for 2 years straight. In other words, Pope Chris I is saying that the cover-up that so many of us see in the J. Slater case, yeah, only exists, yeah, people like Debbie, Brad, Guardia Civil, Ophelia, Ayub, Rocky, Brandon, refusing to go into detail on what they know about this. That cover-up only exists purely to drive content. For me, for 2 years straight. Now, this is where it doesn't make any sense. If this cover-up exists, the J. Slater cover-up only exists for content creators like me to keep going for 2 years, the next question is, why would these people, the Ophelias of this world, the Brads of this world, the Ayubs of this world, why would they want to create a cover-up just to keep my content going? I don't get that bit. And this is where Pope Chris I has gone totally wrong, of course. We all see it. We all see it. The cover-up, Pope Chris I, in the J. Slater case, is merely ordinary people that have got involved in something very, very shocking and criminal, I would suggest, but now realize that it's best not to answer some specific questions. Otherwise, their life and the lives of many others suddenly become a lot worse. That's it. It's not really a cover-up that's conspiratorial. It is just consensus among different people that being silent is the best policy. So I think we can put to bed all of this, oh yeah, how do all these people pull off a great cover-up? All they do is stay quiet when that's the most expedient thing to do. Happens all the time. You see it, for example, in the classroom. I'm not going to labour the point, Pope Chris I, but if you've ever been a teacher, if you've ever been in the classroom, and you know one person has done something pretty bad in the class, but you don't know who it is, you can have 30 kids there. It's not really much of a cover-up that all 30 kids refuse to say anything. There's no great conspiracy there. There's no great organization behind the scenes of the class of 30 all saying, yeah, we better do this to make sure teachers don't find out. They're all just sat there silent because it's the best thing for them individually to do. So yeah, let's just say all of this talk about a cover-up. It's not really that complicated at all. Let us leave Pope Chris I. I want to go back to him at some other point, but I do need to turn to a little bit of extra serving of roast lamb, Luggy today. And let's get to the inquest scenario, because in conversation with Kaz Alice, I think we've hit upon a few truths here. Now then, let's listen, or let's read the words of El Slugtardo in a post today. He says, let's remind everybody that inquest, in capital letters, seats, with an apostrophe S, at the inquest were non-transferable and only one ticket, hyphen, per person yet, hyphen, then idiots still did not get a seat. Before we deal with the heart of the matter, let's just correct once again the appalling English. I've said this before, but I've had many students that are English as second language students, and they could write much better than this. But let's examine it. So, we'll turn to our primary school writing class over here. Let's see who can spot the error. Let's remind everybody L-E-T-S, with no apostrophe. Anyone spot the mistake? Yes, Luggy, Ivor. Your homework to write out 50 times. Let's remind everybody, but make sure the apostrophe is there. Let us remind everybody. The apostrophe goes between the T and the S to indicate the letter U has been left out. You see, Luggy, that is where the apostrophe is needed. Let's remind everybody that inquest in all in capital letters. Why have you capitalized that? Don't know. No need to capitalize that. Inquest, seats, S-E-A-T apostrophe S. Once again, we have an apostrophe mistake. So, little liar Ivor, S-E-A-T-S. It's just a regular plural, seats. It's not of the seat, and it's not S apostrophe, plural of the seats. It's just regular plural. So, get rid of that apostrophe. At the inquest, what does that mean? Let's remind everybody that inquest seats at the inquest were non-transferable. You don't need to, it's called tautology. That little Ivor is tautology. It's an unnecessary repetition of a word that doesn't, you just said inquest. You don't have to repeat the word inquest. The inquest seats, yeah, were non-transferable. I think most people understand, liar Ivor, that inquest seats are the seats at the inquest. Repeating the word inquest doesn't make much sense. Let's get rid of them. We're non-transferable and only one ticket hyphen per person yet hyphen then idiots still did not get a ticket. How can we tidy that up, liar Ivor? Only one ticket per person. You don't need any hyphens. Yeah, and only one ticket per person, comma, yet, comma, those idiots. Not them idiots. Them is, what is that? Object pronoun? We're talking about the idiots that are the subject of the sentence. Those idiots, not those. Not them, it's those. So those and them, don't get them confused. Those idiots still did not get a seat. All right. Now, let's get to the meat and drink of this. Why did those idiots not get a seat? You see, in Liar Ivor's latest post, the false assumption he has made is that it could only be that myself and others in the foul play group could not get a ticket to the inquest because the 4 tickets he knew about from his dear chum Kaz Alice were non-transferable. So in the very shaky false assumption world of Liar Ivor, he thinks that because he knows of 4 tickets that were non-transferable and therefore could not have come to myself or anyone else in the foul play group, that means all of the tickets available to the public could not have been available to myself or the foul play group. And this is why he made the dreadful mistake of saying, you're not coming to the inquest. This is a very, very keen insight into the very frail mindset of a deranged individual. In the public gallery at an inquest, there are several seats. I mean, I don't know how many there were. 30, 40, 50? I don't know. Let's just go with a number. For the sake of argument, let's say there's 40. And Luggy knows through his chum Kaz Alice, because Kaz Alice was first to get her ticket, and Kaz Alice gave a link to some of her chums. No problem with that. And some of, Kaz Alice's chums turned to me and said, hey, we got 4. Would you like one? Yes, please. It turned out it doesn't work that way, Turns out that those 4 tickets weren't possible for myself or for those people. But what about the other 36 tickets? That's assuming there's 40 in the public gallery. What about the other 36? How would Kaz Alice know? How would anyone know? How would Ivor Lovelace know if I had got one of those other tickets? Or if anyone in the foul play group had got any of those tickets? How would they know if we hadn't got, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 tickets from the remainder, from the rest of the tickets available? They wouldn't know. They couldn't possibly know. And yet, just because of these 4 non-transferable tickets, that didn't come our way, Ivor Lovelace assumed we never got any ticket at all. And that is the very dodgy, illogical mindset of one Ivor Lovelace. It's like saying 40 tickets are available, still available for the FA Cup final. And then you find out 4 are actually non-transferable, that whoever got them you can't get one of those. Okay, that leaves 36. Who's to say I didn't get one of the 36? And to this day, Ivor doesn't know, Kaz Alice doesn't know, no one knows whether I did in fact get one of those remaining tickets and whether I just didn't turn up. No one knows that. And yet we have the likes of the professor from Pispot University in West Wales professing to know everything. And this is why I think we thought, hang on, if he really does know who got all those tickets, then he must have an inside person. He must be being fed information from inside the coroner's office. And that could still be true. I don't dismiss that possibility, because so many dodgy things have happened with this coroner's office that it makes me think maybe Lord Lugworm did get a list of names. But then when you think about it, even if you've got a list of all the public names, all the names in the public gallery, he still wouldn't know from that list of names who could well be a colleague of mine, follower of mine, foul play group. He wouldn't know. But I do think Kaz Alice has got this right, that the reason, and the only reason, Ivor Lovelace insists that my name wasn't on that list and that I wouldn't come is because of just the 4 transferable tickets that turned out not to be transferable were the ones that he knew about. The 36 or so he didn't know about, he just presumes to know about. And I think this is reflective of the J. Slater case in general. People like Ivor Lovelace think they know something based on a little bit of knowledge they've been given, which may or may not be true. And then they broadcast to the world everything that must necessarily be true in their very weak mind. But the reality is, they don't know. I'll repeat this one more time. Kaz Alice, Ivor Lovelace, jugglers, the whole lot of you. Unless you got a list from the coroner's office, you would not know today whether I managed to secure a ticket for that court or not. That's the truth. Everything else you say is pure assumption. And it fascinates me. Let's leave that aside. There's something else a little bit funnier that, well, a lot funnier actually, that came from Ivor's recent posts. He said, I hope your Y-O-U-R, of course, it's not Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. If there's ever an apostrophe involved, you know that Ivor's going to get it wrong. It's almost like he can't even guess right. You know, you'd have thought to get 50% guess rate, and he's going to get it right 50% of the time. He doesn't. He just gets it wrong every time. I don't know how. Pisspot University, remember? I hope you're a little gutted about me having a chill life. I don't know who the you is here. It must be our community, I guess. I hope you're a little gutted about me having a chill life. Well, I don't know. I mean, 15 posts yesterday, 15 or 20 posts today doesn't seem a particularly chill life to me, to be honest. I hope you're a little gutted about me having a chill life, says Ivor from West Wales. Doing what I like. What, getting all hot on the collar about people calling you a liar? I guess that's, yeah, what you like. Then he says, mainly all summer. Days happy at sea on one of my boats. This made me laugh. Doing what I like, yeah. What would that be? What would that be? Doing what you like. Mainly all summer. Um, I have this image of the Costa del Fishguard and Luggy sipping champagne with his latest 19-year-old gal aboard, the SS Naughty Boy. In a typical, I love the phrase mainly all summer. Have you ever seen what all summer looks like in West Wales or anywhere in the UK? I mean, it is pretty laughable. You go out and you see the sun, right? It'd be a nice boating day. An hour later, it's pissing down with rain, and that's just the summer. I love this phrase, mainly all summer. I mean, it's either all summer, or it's not, but mainly all summer. What about the winter? Yeah, a wet Wednesday in November, a wet Wednesday in February. Are you out on the SS Naughty Boy with your chill gal, having a chill life on the Costa del Fishguard? I don't think so. So this beautiful image of retired, ever affluent El Slugtardo with his kissy kissy main squeeze teenage gal sipping champers, looking at the Pembrokeshire coastline until it pisses down with rain in 30 minutes. I don't know, just made me laugh. Days happy at sea on one of my boats. Yeah, one of my boats. That would be the naughty boy that isn't currently out at sea, doing some nefarious activity on the way to Lundy Island to drop off something and pick off something. Yeah, not that one. The other one that's called Naughty Boy that is used to entertain kissy kissy my gal Lucy, maybe. Right. One last thing before I wrap up. The Lobster did refer to me as anal sphincter. Apparently, that I'm supposed to be known as anal sphincter from now on. Um, I'm not sure why, but as Alison HR pointed out, the anal sphincter is actually pretty darn important. If your anal sphincter ain't working, El Slugtardo, you're going to have a miserable day. So if your point is that I'm a very important and useful part of your day, then I would guess I have to agree with that. Yes, anal sphincter. Um, but then again, if I am anal sphincter and I help get the shite out of you, if I can squeeze the shite out of you every day, I think that's a good service, public service to all mankind. So I really don't mind being labeled anal sphincter. If it gets rid of the crap that you produce, that's fine. I'll do that job. All right, let's leave it there. More serious matters tomorrow, I hope, but I have enjoyed, I hope you've enjoyed the Sunday roast and then the extra Sunday roast with a look at some of the oddities spoken by Ivor Lovelace and Pope Chris I and Kaz Alice. Hasta luego, adios. See you next time.